Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into an absolutely incredible story from Surah Al-Kahf. We're talking about a historical and theological mystery surrounding a figure whose knowledge actually surpassed that of a mighty prophet of God. It's the kind of narrative that has captivated scholars for, well, over 1,400 years, and it's going to completely challenge our understanding of logic, patience, and unseen divine wisdom.
So our story kicks off with a seemingly simple question. Picture this. Prophet Musa, or Moses, has just delivered this deeply moving sermon to the Israelites in Egypt. I mean, the crowd is literally moved to tears. Right after, a man stands up and asks him, who is the most knowledgeable person on earth today? Naturally, being a great messenger who received direct divine revelation, Musa answered that it was himself. But Allah corrected him. Allah revealed that true absolute knowledge belongs only to the divine and let Musa know about a specific servant who possessed a special hidden knowledge that Musa just didn't have.
So let's get right into the quest for knowledge.
Prophet Musa immediately wanted to meet this man. So Allah gives him this highly unusual directive. He's told to pack a roasted, salted fish in a basket and just start traveling. The exact spot where this dead fish miraculously disappears, that's exactly where he'd find this mysterious servant. Without a moment's hesitation, Musa sets out with his young servant Yusha bin Nun on this massive search for Majma'ul Bahrain, which literally means the junction of the two seas. Now, scholars have debated its exact location for ages. Some think it's where the Persian and Roman seas met, while others say it's the Strait of Gibraltar. Either way, they're exhausted. They stop to rest by a large rock at this junction, and right there, the miracle happens. The salted fish suddenly springs back to life, jumps right out of the basket, and makes its way into the water, literally creating a tunnel-like path in the sea.
But, there was a catch. Satan actually caused Yusha to completely forget to tell Musa about the whole escaping fish thing. So they wake up and keep traveling until they're totally exhausted again. When Musa finally asks for their meal, boom, Yusha remembers the fish. Realizing their mistake, they quickly backtrack to the rock. And there he was, a man wrapped in a green cloak. According to traditions, he was called Khidr because wherever he sat, the barren dry ground around him would just instantly bloom with lush green vegetation. Pretty amazing, right?
And that brings us to their fateful meeting at the two seas.
Musa approaches with deep humility. He greets Khidr and asks for permission to follow him, just wanting to learn from this divinely bestowed knowledge. But Khidr's response, well, it wasn't exactly a warm welcome. Instead, he gives this stark warning, telling Musa flat out that he wouldn't be able to have patience with him. Khidr knew the things that were about to happen would completely defy human logic. So he sets a really firm boundary. Musa could not ask a single question or raise any objections to anything Khidr did, no matter how crazy it seemed, until Khidr himself decided to explain it. Musa, being the immensely determined prophet he is, promises total obedience and patience. And with that, the journey is officially on.
Before the test even kick off, they're sitting by the ocean and something happens that perfectly illustrates the massive gap between human and divine understanding. A tiny sparrow lands on the edge of a boat, dips its beak into the water, and flies away with just a single drop. Khidr points at it and shares this profound metaphor. He says, my knowledge and your knowledge compared to Allah's knowledge is exactly like what the sparrow has taken from the ocean. I mean, wow, it sets the stage perfectly for what's coming next.
Now let's look at the three unexplained mysteries.
As they set off, the tension really skyrockets. Musa is about to witness actions that absolutely clash with his inherent sense of justice, not to mention his prophetic duty to stop wrongdoing. Here's a quick roadmap of the three shocking tests of patience they run into. First, they deal with a broken boat. Next, a deeply troubling encounter involving a young boy. And finally, a really strange response to a rebuilt wall in an inhospitable town. Let's see how this all builds up into an ultimate test for Prophet Musa. Okay, mystery number one. Khidr and Musa need to cross the water. They find a boat belonging to some poor fishermen who actually recognize Khidr as a righteous man. They're so kind, they offer them a ride completely for free. But mid-journey, Khidr does the unthinkable. He deliberately tears a strong wooden plank right out of the hull. Water starts rushing in. Musa, obviously shocked at this apparent betrayal of the fisherman's kindness, angrily protests. Khidr just looks at him and simply reminds him, did I not say you wouldn't have patience? Musa immediately apologizes, chalking it up to a momentary lapse in memory. But then the tension violently escalates in this second mystery. They're walking along and they pass a group of kids playing. Without any warning whatsoever, Khidr suddenly takes the life of a young boy. Now, for Musa, a prophet whose whole mission is standing against oppression, this is absolutely unbearable. I mean, damaging a boat is one thing, but an innocent life? He fiercely objects, calling it a terrible, unjustified act. Once again, Khidr calmly repeats his warning. Musa realizes he's broken his promise twice now, so he makes a final vow. If he questions Khidr even one more time, they have to part ways. The final straw happens in a town which some traditions actually say was Antioch. Our two travelers are starving, totally exhausted, but the townsfolk flat out refuse them any hospitality. No food, no shelter, nothing. But as they're leaving, Khidr notices this crumbling wall that's just about to collapse. Instead of walking past it, he spends hours doing strenuous free labor to rebuild and secure it. Musa, exhausted and hungry, argues that Khidr should have at least asked for a wage so they could buy some food. And, well, that was strike three.
Time for the grand reveal, revealing the hidden wisdom. Khidr turns to Musa and says, "This is the parting between me and you." Musa's journey of observation is officially over. But, true to his word, Khidr finally unlocks the divine logic behind these three seemingly horrific acts. It's fascinating when you contrast the apparent tragedy with the hidden divine mercy. Let's look at the boat. Why break the fisherman's only source of income? Khidr explains that just down the river was a tyrant king who was forcibly seizing every flawless, pristine boat for his own navy. By creating a temporary defect in the hull, Khidr ensured the king would reject their boat. The fishermen could easily patch the hole later, and, most importantly, they got to keep their livelihood. What looked like sheer destruction was actually their ultimate protection. And what about those other two mysteries? Well, Khidr explains that the boy he took the life of was actually destined to grow up into a terrible tyrant. He would have eventually forced his deeply pious parents into disbelief and ruin. By taking him early, Allah protected the parents' faith and, according to tradition, later blessed them with a righteous daughter who actually became the mother of a prophet. As for that crumbling wall in the hostile town, turns out it belonged to two young orphans, and buried right beneath it was their inheritance. Because their late father was a genuinely pious man, Allah wanted that treasure protected until those orphans were old enough to claim it themselves. Khidr concludes the whole thing with this incredibly powerful statement. He says, "I did not do it of my own accord. It was the command of Allah." So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is the limitation of human perception. You and I, we only see the fragmented, chaotic present moment, right? We look at a broken boat and judge it as a total disaster. But Allah's wisdom spans the past, the present, and the future perfectly. The overarching theme is that unseen divine mercy is constantly operating right behind the veil of what we perceive as worldly tragedy. Which leads a lot of people to ask, is Khidr still alive? Because Khidr possessed such unique, timeless knowledge, there's been this fascinating debate echoing through the centuries about whether he still walks the earth today. Now, we're not taking sides here, but let's just look at the two main perspectives to see how scholars have interpreted this. On side A, you've got the Sufi perspective. Many in this tradition believe Khidr is actually still alive, viewing him as one of four immortal prophets who roams the seas to guide the lost and help people in desperate need. But then on side B, you have the perspective of the Muhaddithin, which includes renowned scholars like Imam Bukhari and Ibn Taymiyyah. They argue that he has indeed passed away. They cite Quranic texts stating that no human is granted immortality, and refer to prophetic traditions saying that no one alive on the earth at that specific time would live beyond 100 years. It's a really profound debate that just adds even more mystery to his incredible legacy. But let's bring it back to us. How does this ancient story apply to you and me right now? Just think about our modern struggles. We're talking electricity bills, school fees, being turned down for a job you really wanted. When life stops making sense and our prayers feel completely unanswered, this story is a fantastic anchor. It reminds us that behind the closed doors, behind the rejections and the financial hardships, there's an overarching divine wisdom at play. Just like that broken boat, what feels like a devastating loss today might actually be the exact thing protecting you from a much greater ruin tomorrow.
And this brings us to a final, thought-provoking question for you to take away. How will you view the broken boats in your own life from now on? Seriously, the next time you face a sudden, totally inexplicable setback, remember the man in the green cloak. Remember that our human knowledge is just a single drop compared to the vast ocean of divine wisdom. Trust the unseen plan. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the deeper wisdom hidden in your everyday life.